Hey guys, Rich here. I wanted to give you a walkthrough today of my track Blood, which was recently used in one of the trailers for Dragged Across Concrete. Now, this was one of the tracks from Throat 3, one of our extremely successful series with Elephant Music, which is pretty much cello based at this stage. And Throat 3 was exciting for us because in Throat 2 and Throat 1 it was just one cello playing. It was either me or my friend Tim Gilbert, a very talented cellist. In this one, however, in Throat 3, we hired 3 cellists, a double bass player, and then on top of that, my friend Tim and I also played on top of it. So, you know, there was a lot of noise going on. And the way we did it as well was we hired a studio and I just went in there with tons of ideas, tons of slides, risers, riffs that I just got the cellists to play in lots of different ways. So sometimes one of the fun ones was they were tapping their strings with little wooden spoons and bags of sugar that they got for their teas and coffees. The idea here is that we wanted to have fun making lots of sound. They would then turn that sound into tracks. Some of them were more clearly laid out ideas, whereas this one, however, was not. This was one of the last tracks on the album. I was kind of running out of ideas. I was running out of things to do because they're kind of like organic sound design, these Throat tracks. They're strange riffs, they're strange effects. They just stick on one note usually, or there isn't really a harmonic development except for a textural one. So as you can see, I've left all the cellos up here in blue, and the idea started with this. If I just take off all these samples. This very, very subtle. Let's put a compressor on so you can hear it a bit better. So that was the double bass and the 3 cellos. Double bass underpinning with a single note, I think it's probably D, and the 3 cellos playing random harmonics. And I like that, and I like cutting up audio, so I chucked it through some Altiverb, through a concert orchestral room, some simple stereo delay, and another compressor to get this sound. Yes. Okay, now, if you can find something that inspires you, you will find that quickly a track will unfold, and that's exactly what happened here. I couldn't think what to do for this track, so I just cut this section, this little loop, and I thought, yeah, you know what, I like that. Another thing I like to do is to have either a short rise, a short reversed note, or a short gliss, whatever, leading into a note. So there we go. That was that little. You see, I've cut. There's a little window of audio here. That's the cello rise. I mean, yeah, you can see I had tons of material to play with. It was a lot of fun. So here we go. I took another snippet from that audio, put it through the same effects I had on this harmonic, and I got this. That's the signature sound. I was thinking, okay, that is an absolute beast. I am going to use that. So I then continued to think about textures in that same way. So I wanted that to continue. So I took this idea here, this first one, and copied it over underneath. We had our descending gliss. And again, I wanted to do the same thing again. I wanted something to repeat into it, so it was this section. More glisses going into. And I kept working this way, you know, you'd have a little section where the loop repeats, and then I would add another descending gliss in here, which you can hear. And then obviously, because this is a rise, this is now, once you hear the whole song, you'll hear what I'm talking about. I'm kind of working you through my process. I was aware that I was going to get into Act 3, my third act, which is, you know, where the poop hits the fan, as it were. So I took that whole clip and turned it into a riser. And I'm pretty sure I did the same thing here. I do not know why I've called them descending glisses, because they are clearly ascending. Maybe it's because I didn't want to call it ass gliss. Maybe that's probably it. Yes. Okay, so already I've got this wonderful organic sounds going on, and it's just great. It's already got its very own special identity. Which is exactly what I like to hear in tracks. So this one here, I don't know what instrument 6 is. Let's load it up, see what it is. Okay, so it's actually one of my samples here. My Schrieber samples from, they're not released as of yet, but for Inventive Instruments, they're called Weird Drums. So if I solo them. There we go. Wow, that sounds remarkably like a low drum in a hall. Yeah, I was just using that to add a lovely amount of weight there. But what I started to do was I would take some of the instruments I like to use, which in this case is Hans Zimmer's large taiko drum. And I would shove it through Soundtoys Decapitator and another compressor, so absolutely smash the sound. Yes. So I started then to think about adding emphasis on those edit points, on those downbeats, on the major bars, 4-bar repeats or 8-bar repeats, using these drums. I did the same with the paper juns as well. Then they've got a decap. Oh, they're just heavily compressed. You can see the compressor smashing them there. So as well as all this stuff going on up here, oh, I haven't done that bit yet. So I wanted to start to bring in pace, and that's exactly what I did with all of these low percussion ones. More pace. Okay, so the interesting thing here is, the thing I like about organic sound design is it's not so much the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 structure. You can be a lot more flexible, because obviously what will end up happening is that parts of your tracks will be used for parts of trailers. So this was used for the first 2 acts of the Dragged Across Concrete trailer. So what I've done is I've let Act 2, you know, this second section where I've built up the pace, bleed into Act 3. Which is essentially a ton of slides, a ton of risers, just building up the tension. And it's just such an easy but effective way to create the tension that you want in an organic sound design track. So let's unsolo these chaps, and we're going to think about, look at these next bits, these church piano, which is an inventive instrument of mine. It's the classic trailer ding on the piano, isn't it? And then, as I said, I like to reverse a note to reintroduce another note. You can just hear this church piano tapped. It's called church piano because I recorded it in a church, and it's tapped because it is me tapping the strings with my finger. Just to add like a ticking clock effect. So if we listen to that in situ with the drums and the cellos, except for that one, I am muting the Tim cellos because we recorded that right at the very end. So subtle textures and subtle layers there. The church piano tapped is very quiet, but it helps just tick along. You know, no pun intended. Well, actually, I think the pun was intended, actually, but, you know, it feels good to say that. So yeah, then I got to this stage here, which was my Act 2, and, you know, I thought, okay, I want to bring in some more pulse. That's a trillion bass. Yep, it is. And I didn't want it to feel like somebody on the bass guitar or somebody with a Moog synth, you know, playing sort of classic sounds. I want it to feel kind of more like a weird, awkward percussion. So building and building and building, and obviously, where would we be in trailer music without our Whamms? Okay, so this is the Metropolis Arc tubas chucked through a compressor, a space designer, and an echo. Sorry, impromptu Sean Connery. I'm bending. I'm basically trying to mimic this. Again, mimicking ideas, but when you're orchestrating, you give it to another instrument, it sounds different, but in a good way. I mean, that is absolute filth. Let's have a listen to it in situ. You know, I haven't thought, what chord sequence shall I use? I'm just using textures, I'm just using sounds, I'm thinking about the single notes, the slides, the weird tension you can create within the distance of two tones or a single tone. Here it comes. Okay, nice. Now I got to Act 3 and I was thinking, so there's that. That's our separate, our new Vaughn. Filthy, I love it. How can I make this feel more urgent? And that's when I bring in these chaps. So what I've done here is I've taken these guys, put them through a bus, and put them into the decapitator and then the tremolator. So what you're getting, the decapitator is obviously just giving them some dirt, and the tremolator is just emphasizing the rhythm that they're playing. Okay, and then I just built up. Using the sticks to build up to that very last note here at the 2-minute mark. This track was getting where I wanted it to do, but there were a couple of things I wanted to add in, so I called my friend Tim and got him to play some cello parts. Now, obviously, very talented cellist. I'm usually only ask him to do weird, very, very simple things. As you can hear, like we've got the bow to really dig in for as short as possible. Just a texture, then double it up. Well, it's more than double it up into quarter notes. Let's get something else in here, Tim. So this is the same trick I did with the Mother trailer. I started to play around with the intervals here, just to hammer home the tonality that this was definitely a minor key. Into the last section. Awesome. So just in case you didn't hear what I was doing, just in the end to build it up, it's very, very simple rhythms. I mean, I'm just going, I'm just playing either on the beat and then playing quarter note, then eighth notes, then 16th notes, just to build up to that last. So, you know, you're decreasing the length of time between the notes, which increases the urgency. So if you have a listen, you can just hear those guys. Just sounds like a crazed ticking clock, which is exactly the effect I wanted. Now you can see my whole thought process here stems from this guy, and then taking the same effects to create this one, and just thinking, how can I build tension around those notes? How can I take a texture and make it feel like it's implying urgency and tension. Although it looks and is very simple, it's actually quite a tricky thing to do because we're also trained to work harmonically. that sometimes when you're thinking more in the sense of textures, it's very difficult to think, I must have a beautiful chord sequence somewhere. Actually, you don't. Just hammer home one note all the time. Just add in ever so slight shifts in that note so that, basically we're going in and out of tune, Western tuning, that is. And just think about how you can use rhythms and other textures to develop that tension and that cue. And this is how I've approached all of the tracks on Throat 2 and Throat 3, and they have been incredibly well received. I really hope that you can take what I've shown you here and gone, okay, maybe I'll grab my old guitar and do some pick scrapes and see if I can write a whole track with it. And the other thing to take from this is that, although I have very good samples here from, Spitfire's Hans Zimmer and Metropolis Arc's brass, I shoved them through an incredible amount of distortion and compression, so they didn't sound that great in the end. I mean, you could probably achieve the same effect from your in the box DAW samples. So take what you've learnt from this and go and have a go. At the very least, just go and have some fun with some noise. Thanks, guys.